When I walked into the living room, Ilis, my mother-in-law, looked at me with concern. "Misty, are you feeling all right?" "No, I'm fine. Sorry to keep you waiting," I responded to my mother-in-law Ilis as I took my seat, glancing sideways at my husband, Tyler, and sister-in-law, Sadie. How can they sit there like nothing happened? What kind of nerves do they have? As they started eating as if everything was normal, I felt a surge of anger well up inside me. I'm not going to let them pretend nothing happened. I gathered my courage, stood up, and announced, "I have an important announcement for everyone." My in-laws, who had no idea what was coming, and my brother-in-law, Skylar, looked at me with eager faces, wondering what it could be. Are you expecting a baby?" Kent, my father-in-law, said with excitement in his voice, and I steeled myself, refusing to be swayed by his hopeful tone. "First, I'd like you all to look at this." With those words, I held up my phone to everyone and played a certain video. A long silence filled the room. The air was heavy. Then, coming to his senses, Skylar, with a face red from anger, turned to Sadie and began to interrogate her. "What is this?" Kent, equally red-faced, started shouting in frustration. "What on earth were you thinking? You're both adults. What kind of behavior is this?" Tears streamed down Ilis's face, and Sadie glared at me with fierce eyes. Tyler's face had gone completely pale. What was supposed to be a family dinner had turned into a nightmare, a true hellscape of emotions. And no wonder, because in that video, I've been married for 3 years now, working part-time as a typical working mother. I don't have any children yet. I met my husband, Tyler, 3 years my senior, as a colleague at a previous job. But honestly, my first impression of him was pretty bad. Thinking back to those days, I can't help but laugh. It was about a week after I was transferred to Tyler's department. Still trying to adjust, I kept a low profile. One day, after coming back from a meeting, I sat down and casually opened my desk drawer. Inside, there was this black object that I didn't recognize. The moment I realized what it was, I screamed at the top of my lungs across the office. "Roach!" "Hey, it's just a toy," one of my colleagues, who'd gathered around to see what the commotion was, said. "What? It's not moving at all. See, it's just a rubber toy." With that, he held up the rubber roach in front of me. "Even if it's a toy, I still hate it. Take it away, please. Bugs, especially the shiny black ones, are my worst nightmare." Sorry. So you hate roaches, huh?" The one who pulled the roach back with a grin was Tyler. "But this thing was expensive, you know. Look, it's pretty realistic around here, don't you think, huh?" And you screamed like wah. "Are you a newborn, Misty?" Until then, we had only exchanged polite greetings. But suddenly he was pulling a prank on me with a rubber roach, something I absolutely despise, and then treating me like a baby. Well, okay, maybe the why was a bit much even for me. My first impression of Tyler was terrible, but it seemed like the whole department recognized him as the rascally one. Again, this must be Tyler's doing. Come on, I'm busy. Give me a break. When everyone realized it was Tyler who caused the fuss, my coworkers just grumbled, then returned to their desks as if nothing happened. It was through this roach incident that we first spoke, and after that, we began talking more and eventually started dating. Tyler had this charm. No matter what kind of pranks or snarky remarks he made, he somehow never got on anyone's bad side. And once we started dating, he'd say all sorts of cheesy things like "I love you" and "I only need you, Misty." And, well, he had me completely hooked. Since we got married, whenever one of those creepy, shiny bugs appears in the house, Tyler lets out a loud wow and goes after it. He's always setting up little pranks, like hiding a whoopee cushion for a good laugh. But each morning before he leaves, he says, "I love you," instead of a simple goodbye. His work performance has been great too. Tyler got promoted to manager at 33 last year, and I heard from a former colleague that he lightens the mood with his harmless pranks and keeps the team close. When I worked there, people would say, "He's funny but still acts like a college kid," but now they call him the funny, inspiring boss. I'm proud of him, and when we have kids someday, I know he'll make a funny, dependable dad. I can't wait to have children. I've been hoping, but just not happening easily. I'm 31 now, so I've been looking up fertility websites lately. I haven't been able to commit to any visits yet, though. Then one day, we got an invitation from Ilis for a family dinner at Tyler's parents' house. His parents, who live about a 30-minute drive away, are lovely people and sometimes invite us for meals like this. Like Tyler, his parents Scant and Ilis always have entertaining stories, and the meals are always filled with laughter and delicious food. I genuinely like his parents. Tyler has an older brother named Skylar, who's also a fun guy. He holds an executive position at a large company, but he's easygoing and unpretentious. In that sense, he's a lot like Tyler. The two of them are close and often visit each other's homes on weekends. Sometimes Skylar comes to our house, and sometimes we go over to his place. But honestly, I can't get along with his wife, Sadie. Skylar married someone much younger, so Sadie is still only 28. When the four of us dine together, I feel like the skin around my eyes is sagging. My hair's lost its shine too. I hate getting older. Sadie, despite being the youngest, casually says things like, "I get irritated with the way she says things every single time." But the two men just respond with, "When you hit 30, you'll start seeing gray hairs pop out. By 35, you'll find them in your nose too." Seriously, Skylar. They just laugh it off so easily. And honestly, I admire that. Given her constant remarks about looks, it's no surprise Sadie always keeps herself well groomed. And even as a woman, I have to admit she's charming. Since Skylar has a good income, she's always dressed in designer brands, and they suit her perfectly. If I were a guy, I'd probably be proud to have a wife like that. But still, oh, Misty, with such cheap clothes, you're dragging down Tyler's reputation. You're not much to look at as it is, so the least you could do is dress properly. Seriously, that comment makes me want to scream. I haven't given up on my femininity. I try to look good, too. Sadie is the type who's adored by men but disliked by other women. She's the perfect example of that. Oh, if only Sadie could catch a cold or something, so Skylar could just come alone. So while I was looking forward to the family dinner at my in-laws, I felt a bit gloomy at the thought of seeing her there. But as expected, she wasn't conveniently going to catch a cold, and I heard that everyone would be attending as planned. On that day, I couldn't get off work early, so I let them know in advance that I would arrive a little late. The store was having its big sale, and they needed extra hands, so the manager practically begged me to stay. But in reality, the morning rush was intense. Yet by early afternoon, the crowd thinned out, and we ran out of things to do. I got the manager's permission to leave early, so I messaged Ilis that I'd likely make it on time. I also tried calling Tyler, but he didn't answer. I had already told Ilis, so I figured it was fine. Without thinking much more, I headed to my in-laws' place. When I arrived, Ilis welcomed me warmly. Inside, there was an amazing aroma wafting through the house, making my stomach rumble with hunger. Entering the living room, I saw Kent and Skylar watching TV together. "Oh, Misty, Welcome, Kent. It's been a while. Thank you for having me. I returned Kent's greeting, but Tyler was nowhere in sight. Where's Tyler? Isn't he here yet? No, he went upstairs with something he wanted to show Sadie. Skylar informed me. Really? I wondered what it was that Tyler wanted to show Sadie. But Skylar didn't seem concerned, so I joined them on the sofa and watched the show they had on. But it was some dry documentary about economics or something, and I couldn't make sense of it at all. I'll go call them down from upstairs. Growing bored, I excused myself to go find Tyler. Suddenly, a playful idea popped into my head. I thought I'd sneak up on him and give him a little scare. He always sneaks up on me, so I figured it was time to return the favor. Planning to record the moment, I held up my phone's camera and made my way up to Tyler's room. When I reached the door, I noticed it was unusually quiet. Tyler's voice tends to carry, but there wasn't a sound to be heard. If only I'd thought a bit more about what that silence could mean. But instead, I just burst in, thinking maybe they were whispering about something private, and I shouted, "Surprise!" Inside, Tyler and Sadie froze, staring at me like they'd turned to stone. I froze. I couldn't move at all, like a statue, because right there, on the bed, the two of them were in an impossible position, and of course, completely naked. Oh, surprise. See, didn't expect this, huh, Misty? I stayed frozen, unable to respond. Tyler's words floated uselessly in the air. No, it's not what it looks like. Realizing he couldn't cover it up, Tyler started explaining himself. He was trying so hard, saying something frantically, but I couldn't hear any of it. Quietly, I closed the door. I went to the bathroom to collect myself. After taking a few deep breaths, I played the video on my phone with trembling hands. Unfortunately, or rather obviously, the video was crystal clear, and it was unmistakable. Blatant infidelity. With my mind blank from shock, I played the video over and over. I wondered if, as Tyler said, there might be some surprise twist hidden in it. But, dinner's ready, everyone. Misty, are you okay? You feeling all right? At that moment, Ilis's carefree voice echoed down the hall. The moment I heard her voice, I felt a wave of anger start building up inside me. What about all those times he told me he loved me? Was it all a lie? As my confusion turned into anger, my mind strangely cleared, and I felt myself becoming calm. I took one more deep breath before leaving the bathroom. In the living room, Ilis looked at me with concern. Misty, are you okay? No, I'm fine. Sorry to keep you waiting. Answering Ilis, I took my seat, casting a sideways glance at Tyler and Sadie. Normally, Misty, stomach troubles. Tyler would probably make some kind of joke like that, but even he was silent now. How can they sit at the table like nothing's happened? What kind of nerve do they have? Did they think I closed the door without saying anything, so it would be overlooked? Maybe if the two of them had come down and sincerely apologized, or if they'd stayed upstairs in shame, my reaction would have been different. But seeing them just sit down like it's a regular dinner made my anger boil. It was the biggest rage I'd ever felt in my life. After taking yet another deep breath, I stood up and declared, I have an important announcement to make. Tyler's parents and Skylar, who had no idea what was going on, looked at me expectantly. Could it be a grandchild? Are you pregnant? Kent's hopeful words nearly made my heart falter, but I steadied myself. First, I'd like you all to watch this. With that, I played the video I had just recorded of their affair. A heavy silence filled the room. The air was suffocating. What is this? Finally, Skylar snapped out of it, his face turning red with anger as he questioned Sadie. Sadie, however, just glared at me in silence, refusing to answer. Ilis's eyes filled with tears. What are you two doing? You're both grown adults. What on earth were you thinking? Kent, meanwhile, just kept shouting. The family dinner that should have been a pleasant gathering turned into a scene from a nightmare. I'm so sorry. It was just a moment of weakness. Tyler kept apologizing profusely, but I ignored him. I'm truly sorry for ruining a family dinner. I apologized to Tyler's parents and then left. When I got home, I finally broke down and cried alone. Finally, I could cry. That's how it felt. I must have been holding myself together the whole time I was at my in-laws' house. As soon as I'd cried it all out, Tyler came home. Oh no, I should have been packing my bags and leaving instead of crying, but it was too late. Tyler started apologizing deeply. I truly love you, Misty. I'll do anything to make it up to you. I won't ever see her again, and I swear I won't even speak to any other woman. Not see her again. She's family. You know that's impossible. Even if I do see her, I'll ignore her. Then why did you do it if you care this much about me? Look at me, starting to soften already. This was exactly why I didn't want to talk to him right now. But then, he said something that made my ears perk up. Honestly, I don't know what I was thinking. I must have just been in a daze. I can't live without potatoes, but when foie gras is served, it's tempting to try it. What did you just say? So I'm the plain, everyday potatoes, and Sadie is foie gras. But I swear, I won't ever go near it again. Promise. Tyler kept talking, but once again, his words weren't reaching me anymore. All I could see was Sadie laughing haughtily in my head. And the anger started bubbling up again. I'm staying at a hotel tonight. I need some time to think. I managed to say that, and started packing a few things quickly. Unaware of his blunder, Tyler, still exhausted, drove me to the hotel, checked me in, and said, "Let's talk once you've had a chance to calm down." And then he left. The next morning, I left the hotel and headed straight to my parents' house. I told my part-time job a little white lie, saying I had to go home because my parents were unwell and needed me for a while. In the end, I never went back home, and not long after that, we got divorced. Tyler apologized profusely in front of my parents too, but I could no longer trust his words. Tyler, who works in sales, had met Sadie while he was out on his rounds downtown, and that was the beginning of the whole mess. For nearly 10 months, they had kept up their affair, sneaking behind my back and behind Skylar's back. I was blissfully unaware, living peacefully for those 10 months. The revelation at my in-laws' place had struck me like a bolt of lightning. Even if I went back to Tyler and we tried to live a peaceful life, I'd always have my doubts. I'd keep wondering if he was cheating on me again. That would be painful for me, and it would be painful for him too. Tyler understood my reasoning, and as he kept apologizing till the end, he signed the divorce papers and agreed to pay a settlement far higher than the standard. So Tyler and I managed to end things relatively peacefully, but it was a different story for Skylar and Sadie. It turned out Sadie had multiple other lovers as well. She had even been actively seeking out flames on dating apps. Skylar was apparently shocked to learn about this, but despite all evidence pointing to Sadie's fault, she came out with this bizarre argument, saying, "A husband who neglects his wife and leaves her lonely is at fault. You should be paying me the settlement instead." And the whole situation escalated to a divorce court battle. Of course, the ruling was against Sadie, having to pay a large settlement. She was even abandoned by her own family, and now lives in a cramped, run-down apartment, juggling multiple part-time jobs just to make payments. After everything had ended, I heard from my in-laws. who came to apologize again, that Tyler's testimony during the trial somehow managed to mend the relationship between the brothers, who had become so bitterly estranged that they wouldn't even speak to each other. I genuinely thought that was good. Those two had always been so close. Even if they can't return to how they were before, maybe with time, they can rebuild things between them. I can't help but feel some satisfaction at Sadie's downfall, but I still can't fully despise Tyler. What he did was unforgivable, and I have no intention of being involved with him anymore. But I guess I'm too soft-hearted because I still find myself wishing him happiness in his future. At the same time, part of me is glad that I never had children. Not having kids allowed me to sever all ties cleanly and bring closure to my feelings. If, by chance, years later, we were to meet again, maybe in some retirement home, maybe I could look over at him and say, "We've both gotten older, haven't we?" And we could become the kind of friends who sit and chat over tea. The thought actually made me feel a bit lighter. Maybe it's because I started working full-time, got used to my new job, and finally began to look forward and move on with my life. Now I just hope that each of us, me, Tyler, and Skylar, can find our own happiness. Let's keep going, I muttered to myself quietly, not really to anyone in particular. Miranda, what are you doing? What do you mean? I thought it was obvious. I'm slicing up that precious dress of yours. What? I'm doing this because no matter how many times I tell you, you just won't listen to me. You're such a disrespectful daughter-in-law. So I decided to teach you a lesson. Yes, here's the final touch. With that, my mother-in-law Miranda poured red wine all over the dress. I was stunned into silence. Mouth agape. Oh dear, what a shame. It looks like you won't be able to go on center stage today, huh? But don't worry. Here, put on the dress I picked out for you. About that dress. It's not mine, actually. What? As Miranda stared in shock, a scream echoed from behind us. My heart had been racing since the morning, because today was finally the day of the wedding. We had been preparing for this day together for so long. We went through so much to get here, but today was my center stage. With a flutter of excitement, I headed to the bridal waiting room, only to be met with an unbelievable scene. I had first met my husband Thomas at our vocational school. At the vocational school I attended, they offered various courses on clothing and design. There were fields for fashion design, clothing construction, and even students who aspired to be models. In class, I had discovered a passion for clothing construction. At that time, it was my final year in college. The school holds a traditional event every year. It's a contest hosted by the school. Students participate in fashion design, clothing construction, and modeling. For the whole school project, student names were kept anonymous. Everyone began working on their own pieces. I took on the responsibility for creating the clothing. There were some fashion design works that really caught the eye. When I saw the final pieces after everything was completed, they were so beautiful it was hard to put into words. I looked at the finished garment, feeling incredibly moved. Finally, it's done. And this design is so gorgeous. I wonder who created it. While I was lost in admiration, I heard a voice sighing behind me. Wow, this turned out exactly how I imagined it would. Actually, even better. When I turned around in surprise, I saw a younger-looking boy standing there. Are you the one who designed this? Yeah, I am. Your design is amazing. It felt so alive. Thank you. But aren't you surprised that a guy made it? I was a little surprised, but that doesn't matter at all. This design is sure to win the contest. You think so? Last year, I didn't even make it past the preliminary round. But this time, I want to win, too. Now we just need to find a model who can do justice to this outfit. With size considerations, we had only a limited number of options for models. Last year, model selection involved students trying on the outfits they wanted and picking from there. But with preferences all over the place, they changed it this year. So the fashion design and clothing creators had to recruit their own models. I had one person in mind. She was a girl in my grade, though I hadn't really spoken to her before. There's someone I think would be perfect, but I'm not sure if she'll be interested. I'll give it a try, though. Thank you. The next day, I approached a girl in my grade. Can I talk to you for a minute? Oh, what's this about? I heard you're a model candidate for the school's fashion contest. Yes, that's right. Would you be willing to wear my work for the show? She had an amazing figure and was already someone people noticed in our grade. I thought she would look perfect in the finished outfit. That's fine, but I've received other offers too. Of course you have. Several people have scouted me. And after school today, I plan to look at each piece before deciding. I can include yours, too, if you want. Absolutely. I'd really appreciate it. Then please display it in the art room after school. I want to choose fairly without knowing who made which piece. I might not end up choosing yours. Though, are you okay with that? Yes, I understand. And so after school, we set up our pieces in the art room. It seemed like our teacher had already approved it in advance. After displaying our work, we waited in a separate room. Then the moment of selection finally arrived. The fashion design student and I held our breath in anticipation. After a few minutes, she came into the waiting room. All the pieces were great, but one especially stood out. I'd like to go with this one. Who made it? The piece she chose was ours. I raised my hand, and her eyes sparkled. You're the one who created this. It's absolutely stunning. And so, each role in our project was set. The other students left the waiting room with drooping shoulders. Afterward, the three of us started talking. First, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Regina, the model. I'm Tracy, in charge of garment creation. Thomas here, handling fashion design. Did you draw this design? Amazing. Let's make sure we win. From that moment, we prepared meticulously for the contest. As we worked together, we started showing more interest in each other's lives, soon sharing personal stories. Regina lost her mom in her sophomore year. That's when she decided to become a model, wanting to wear the clothes her mom left behind. And Thomas was, surprisingly, same grade as us. To win this last contest, he created that design. An only child, Thomas had to deal with his mom's objections, but chose fashion design because he loved it. Finally, our preparations were over, and the big day arrived. All the students at school were filled with nerves. The contest has 3 stages of judgment. The first is a document review, the initial screening. The teachers assess photos of the models wearing the designs along with selling points from the fashion design and garment creation members. Most entries don't make it past this stage. Those that do advance to the second round. For 3 days, entries are on public display, with visitors casting their votes, and the most popular entries advance to the final round. In the final round, held on the last day of the event, models present the designs on the runway. Esteemed judges, including famous actresses and fashion designers, assess them. Some students catch the judge's eye and even get scouted after the event. These judges are alumni from our school. For seniors nearing graduation, this is a rare opportunity. So our team's goal was to reach the final round. And today, our team made it to the final round. The last stage is the fashion show, where models wear the designs. We made it this far, I'll wear your designs and impress those judges. Regina, brimming with confidence, headed to the waiting room. We watched the scene unfold from the audience. As the fashion show began, models wearing the final designs stepped onto the stage. Among them, our design sparked the most excitement from the crowd. You could even hear gasps of admiration. The final results. Our design won first place. We did it. We won. We were overjoyed. Each of us received job offers from our alumni, securing our futures. After the event ended, Thomas came up to me, and we headed home together. So our school life has finally come to an end. I'm glad we won the last event. Well, I wanted to tell you something after the event. What? From the moment I saw your work that day, I was captivated by your design. No, by you, Tracy. I know we'll both be busy after graduation, but would you go out with me? I was also drawn to your design back then, Thomas. Since then, you've been on my mind. I'd love to. And so, we started dating, all thanks to this encounter. It's been 5 years since then, and he proposed to me. And now we're finally getting married. Since we've been together for so long, we both got to know each other's families. However, I didn't have a good relationship with his mother, Miranda. Being an only child, Thomas had been doted on by her since he was young. The first time I went to Thomas's house, she seemed to see me as an enemy. You're the reason Tommy went astray. Designer or whatever, he used to be such a good boy who would just listen to me. She said things like that when Thomas wasn't around. Thomas moved into a dorm when he went to college to put some distance between himself and Miranda. His father, Sean, supported us. I managed to use my communication skills to pretend to get along with Miranda on the surface. Thomas told me I didn't have to force myself to get along with her. When our wedding date was set, Thomas's parents contributed some money toward the expenses. My parents tried to help as well, but we insisted on covering the costs ourselves. We politely declined his parents' offer too, but Miranda wouldn't take no for an answer, so we reluctantly accepted. From there, when we began planning the wedding, Miranda started voicing her opinions. Choose this level of menu and make it French. Foie gras would be nice. Make sure it's the highest quality. What? You want a small, intimate guest list? No way. Invite lots of people and have a grand ceremony. It'll be great for Tommy's reputation. Oh, and make sure to invite that famous CEO too. What's with this cake? It's so plain. Go for something with lots of fruit and make it more glamorous. And so on, always giving her opinion. Each time, Thomas and Sean would calm her down, preventing any major issues. However, there was one thing Miranda absolutely wouldn't budge on. It was the wedding dress. Miranda insisted that I wear the dress that had been passed down in her family. The dress. You must wear this one. I won't compromise on this. Sorry, Miranda, but I've already decided on the dress I want. Mom, please respect her decision. When I showed her a photo of my dress, Miranda quietly replied, "What is this? Such a strange dress. If you're going to wear something like this, wear my dress instead." I'm sorry, Miranda, but this is the dress I really want. Do as you please. After Miranda walked away, I looked at Thomas and noticed he seemed slightly drained. And so we continued preparing, sometimes calming Miranda's suggestions while pushing forward with our plans. Busy days passed, and suddenly, it was the day before our wedding. We arrived at the venue for our final preparations. It's finally happening tomorrow. Yay, I'm nervous, but I'm excited. As we were talking, a voice called from behind us. "Excuse me, are you Tracy and Thomas?" We turned around to see a woman with a model-like figure standing there. "Yes, that's us. And you are?" Oh, don't you remember? It's me, Regina. It turned out that the woman was Regina. We were reunited after so long, since our college days. We caught up on the last 5 years over coffee in the hall cafe, sharing stories enthusiastically. I never expected to run into you here. Well, the feeling's mutual. Is your wedding here, Regina? Yes, it's tomorrow morning. So I suppose sending invitations to you two ended up being in vain. Sorry, we'll be attending an afternoon ceremony, so I doubt we can make it to yours. I really didn't think it'd be at the same venue. Neither did I. But hopefully, we'll both have lovely ceremonies tomorrow. By the way, did you settle on your dress? W Ray going with this one. I showed her a picture. Could it be? Yes, I've kept it safe just for this day. Now I think I'll finally be able to wear it perfectly. How lovely. It's going to be a beautiful day. What about your dress, Regina? Mine's this one. Regina showed me her dress. Her dress was gorgeous as well. This dress means a lot to me. Is it what you mentioned back in college? Impressive memory. Yes, it's the one I talked about then. It'll be a wonderful day for you too, Regina. We both left, wishing each other success for tomorrow's ceremonies. The morning of the wedding day, we arrived at the venue early to prepare. Everyone's family was around, but only Miranda was nowhere to be seen. I had a feeling of foreboding. I couldn't shake it, but soon I brushed it off. After all, today was our wedding. Thomas and I had worked so hard together for this day. A lot had happened along the way, but today the spotlight was mine. With my heart pounding, I opened the door to the bridal waiting room. In the next instant, I couldn't believe my eyes, because inside, I saw Miranda, scissors in hand, silently cutting up my dress. Miranda, what are you doing? What do you think? I'm cutting up that precious dress of yours. What? You never listen to me, no matter how many times I tell you. Such an insolent daughter-in-law. So, this is my punishment. Now for the final touch. With that, she poured red wine over the dress. My mouth was left agape. Oh dear, what a shame. Looks like you won't be taking center stage today. But no worries. Here, put on the dress I prepared. That dress. It's not mine, is it? What are you talking about? Of course, it is. As Miranda looked surprised, a scream came from behind us. It was Regina, the true owner of the dress. Why, my dress. How could you do this? Miranda was flustered. Staff and other attendees began gathering at the commotion. How could you? This dress was the only one my mom left me. I did nothing wrong. Yes, this daughter-in-law was the one cutting it up. I just tried to stop her. Tracy would never do that. You may not know this, but this venue has cameras everywhere, so the culprit will be caught quickly. What? My precious dress. The ceremony starts in just 1 hour, and there's no way to change into something else now. As Regina cried, an idea struck me. Regina, wear my dress. It should fit you. Tracy, but that dress is the best one we three ever worked on, isn't it? It was originally your size, so it should fit you. Make it a great ceremony. Thank you. Yes, the dress I had prepared was the one Thomas designed back in college, the one I crafted, and the one Regina wore back then. I had been preparing for this day to wear that cherished dress from our memories. Throughout the exchange, only Miranda seemed puzzled. I didn't expect you to go this far. I'm done with you. I'll bring the divorce papers later, so go home and pack. Wait, Sean. At least let me stay for Tommy's center stage. As Miranda clung to Sean, Thomas spoke firmly. We're not family anymore. Leave this venue. Miranda, startled by Thomas's usually calm voice, glanced around and found herself met with cold stares from relatives. With no energy left, she exited the hall. Regina's wedding proceeded successfully. After the ceremony, Regina came to the waiting room. "Thank you, Tracy. You saved me. I'm the one who should apologize for not foreseeing what Miranda would do. I'm so sorry. I should apologize too. I'm really sorry. I was heartbroken to see my cherished dress ruined like that. But you both helped make it a beautiful ceremony. Plus, this dress means a lot to me, so I was thrilled to wear it today. Because of that, I'll let this go." "What? But that's not fair. At least let me have her pay some compensation. I couldn't stop her myself, after all." "You don't need to pay any compensation. Then I'll make sure Mom covers the damages. I promise." "Thank you." Even as Regina shed tears, she smiled at us. "Now it's time for your ceremony. My husband allowed me to stay a bit longer, so I'll go watch after I change." "Yes, thank you, Regina." So our afternoon ceremony turned out well, with Miranda removed, and our old college friend joining us midway to make it all the more special. With the wedding over, we finally had a moment to rest. Later, after her divorce, Miranda seems to be working to pay off the wedding dress compensation. Though she once tried pleading with relatives, everyone knew what had happened that day, so she now lives a rather lonely life, avoided by most. The three of us, in celebration of our reunion, decided to come together and start our own company. Thomas designs the fashion, I handle the production, and Regina models for the magazines, which skyrocketed our popularity. With my closest friends and husband by my side, I'll keep striving forward from here. That girl, it's already 10 p.m. What is she even doing at this hour? The moment my son, Nolan, raised his voice in frustration, the front door opened. "I'm sorry, I lost track of time hanging out with friends." My daughter-in-law, Mary, with a flushed face from drinking, wobbled her way down the hall. Without even taking a shower, she collapsed onto the bed in the bedroom. Nolan noticed a paper sticking out of her bag, took it out, and was stunned. It's a bill from a members-only bar. She spent $1K just on drinks. Where did she even get that kind of money? Nolan's loud voice snapped me back to my senses, and I went to check my secret savings in the closet. The envelope, which had held my carefully saved $3K, was now empty. I felt faint and collapsed to the floor. "Hey, wake up," as Nolan shook Mary's shoulder. But Mary, unbothered, kept sleeping soundly. 7 years ago, I lost my beloved husband. And since then, it has just been me and my 40-year-old son, Nolan, living together. Nolan is a thoughtful, responsible person, though he's never been very good with relationships. Since his teenage years up until now, I'd never heard of him having a girlfriend, let alone thinking about marriage. After my husband passed, I often worried about Nolan, who spent his mid-30s simply shuttling between work and home. But as it turns out, he had been seriously considering marriage without me even knowing it. Last year, Nolan married a woman he met at a matchmaking agency, someone his own age. Now I live with Nolan and his new family under one roof. My daughter-in-law, Mary, is cheerful and outgoing. "Holly, I made some pancakes. Would you like to eat with me?" Mary often offers me homemade treats. Mary's pancakes are so fluffy and delicious. I mixed lots of cream into the batter. When I compliment her, Mary smiles proudly. It's like watching a child beaming with joy after being praised by their parents. When I see her, so charming and sincere, it reminds me of the day Nolan introduced her to me. I think she's so kind and warm. and I just want to spend my life taking care of her." Nolan had spoken shyly then. Now I feel like I'm the one who wants to see Mary's smile forever. She's like a real daughter to me, so sweet and devoted, and we've built a wonderful relationship. However, there's one thing about Mary that worries me. Mary has a big appetite. Since Nolan and I split our living expenses, the cost of food isn't an issue. But Mary, at 40 years old, weighs 200 pounds. At her age, it's concerning, considering the health risks that can come with it. Still, I can't bring myself to say anything to her. Even between women, I know how rude it would sound. Besides, when I see her eating so happily with a radiant smile, I just can't bring myself to bring up her weight or any health concerns. One day, my worst fear became a reality. Holding a health screening report, I spoke to Nolan. Well, I ended up flagged in the company health check. They told me to go to the hospital for further tests. Such a hassle. What? Wait, it says you need treatment. Nolan's surprised voice made me glance over at the report as well. The report clearly stated, "Please seek specialized medical treatment immediately." It seemed that blood was detected in her urine, necessitating immediate medical attention. Both Nolan and I were stunned, while she herself seemed oblivious to the gravity of the situation. These things are such a hassle. A colleague was also told to get retested for high blood sugar. She spoke in a carefree tone, unaware of the seriousness. Getting retested and needing treatment are completely different things. Nolan's voice didn't reach Mary. "Anyway, let's go to the hospital this weekend. I'll go with you." "Sorry, I have work, so I can't make it." When Nolan and I said that, Mary smiled cheerfully. "Oh, come on. Being escorted to the hospital. It's not like I'm seriously injured." Holly, Nolan, you're both overreacting. No, it's not an overreaction. Nolan was speechless, unable to find the right words. Without saying anything more to Mary, I made an appointment with a urologist. A few days later, I accompanied Mary to the urology clinic. After an in-depth interview and examination, the doctor told her, "Please bring your family along. I'd like to explain everything together." Mary came to get me from the waiting room. The doctor said he wants to talk to a family member. "Holly, please come with me to the examination room." I hadn't been informed about any of this and was filled with questions, wondering, why me? As Mary and I waited outside the examination room, her phone rang. "Oh, it's a friend calling. Sorry, could you listen to the doctor for me?" With that, Mary hurriedly left the building to take the call. When I entered the room, "Are you the mother?" the doctor asked. "Well, I'm her mother-in-law." "I see. Since you're family, let me explain Mary's condition." The doctor then proceeded to explain Mary's diagnosis to me. To be straightforward, it's terminal kidney cancer. At most, she has 6 months left. We thought it would be too much for her to hear directly, so we called her family. The unexpected diagnosis left me speechless. "Is there any way to cure it?" I asked, barely able to speak, my voice forced from deep within me. The doctor looked troubled. "If it had been discovered sooner, we could have removed the cancer cells with surgery or tried to eliminate them with chemotherapy. But in her current state, there's no treatment that will improve her condition." Feeling as if I might collapse, I returned to the waiting room. Sweat broke out on my forehead, and my heart pounded. After finishing her call with her friend, Mary spoke to me, but her words didn't reach my ears. Mary has terminal kidney cancer, with only 6 months left. Just thinking about it brought tears to my eyes. I fought back the tears and returned home, wondering how I could possibly tell Mary and Nolan. Just when I was feeling lost, "Mom, what's wrong? You look pale." Nolan called out to me. "I need to talk to you. It's serious. come to the living room after Mary falls asleep. After I said that, Nolan nodded silently. Later that night, when Mary was sound asleep, I told Nolan that Mary was in the late stages of kidney cancer, and that the doctor had given her only 6 months to live. Nolan froze in shock, covering his face with his hands in silence. How many minutes passed? A long silence lingered until Nolan finally spoke. Does Mary know about this? No, I'm the only one the doctor told. When I said that, Nolan nodded to himself as if he had made up his mind. If she doesn't know, then let's keep it that way. The most important thing is that Mary gets to live happily, with a smile on her face. I agreed with Nolan's words, nodding deeply. Thankfully, Mary doesn't seem to have any symptoms of pain, even if the illness is progressing, and even if her time is running out. As long as she can live happily, unaware of the truth, that's all that matters. I resolved to keep this a secret until Mary came to me with health concerns. But the next morning, Mary approached me. What were you and Nolan talking about last night? I froze in shock, and Mary flashed a sly grin. You don't need to hide it. I heard everything. Oh, you heard it all. Just as I was about to be honest with Mary about her illness and prognosis, she spoke first. Holly, you have kidney cancer, and only 6 months left, so that's why you look so pale after leaving the hospital. What? Mary gently patted my shoulder as I stood there in shock. Don't be discouraged. I'll give you all the support you need. Let's make sure you have a peaceful time ahead. Wait, ignoring my confusion. Oh no. Look at the time, I'm going to be late for work, Mary said and left the house. Did she misunderstand and think I** was the one with 6 months left? I need to tell her the truth. I waited for Mary to return, but she didn't come back until late at night. It's already 10 p.m. Where on earth has she been? Nolan said, raising his voice in frustration just as the front door opened. Sorry, I lost track of time hanging out with friends. Mary, her face flushed from drinking, wobbled through the hallway. Then, without taking a shower, she went straight to bed. Nolan took a paper sticking out of Mary's bag and was shocked. It's a bill from a members-only bar. She spent $1K on drinks. Where did she get that kind of money? Nolan's shout brought me back to my senses, and I checked the envelope in the closet where I kept my secret savings. The envelope with my carefully saved $3K was empty. I felt faint and sank to the floor, while Nolan, hey, wake up, shook Mary's shoulder. Mary, unaffected by any of this, slept soundly. The next morning, Mary didn't get up, so I called her workplace to report her absence. Nolan left for work, and I went out shopping. During that time, Mary woke up, only to stay out late with friends once again. She bought loads of designer goods, enjoyed a lavish meal at an upscale steakhouse, and then indulged in endless glasses of fine wine at an exclusive bar. Returning home, she simply fell asleep, only to miss work again the following morning. After a few days of this routine, Mary's boss was furious. If this continues, we'll have to let her go. And when I called in on Mary's behalf, her company reprimanded me. But each morning, despite my efforts to wake her, Mary showed no intention of getting up. Afternoon would come, and she'd go out again, splurging on designer items and dining out at luxury spots before returning home. Where did Mary get all the money for this extravagant lifestyle? Curious, I went to check my debit card and found it stashed in Mary's closet. Could it be? All this splurging was funded by my savings. As I stood there trembling with anger, Mary's voice sounded from behind me. Holly, could you stop rummaging through my closet? Her voice was deeper and darker than I'd ever heard. Mary, could you stop taking and using my debit card without my permission? I managed to stammer back, feeling a chill. Mary, undeterred, replied calmly, when you pass away, all this money will come to us. So I decided to take a little early. Mary's bold attitude left me speechless for a moment, as if her reasoning was somehow valid. But her words didn't add up. If anyone should be worried about passing away, it's her, not me. And as I'm still here, using my money without permission is nothing short of theft. I almost confronted her about it, but stopped myself just in time. I still hadn't gathered enough courage to tell Mary about my illness and my prognosis. Mary seemed to take my silence as a sign of her victory. From that day on, she began showing a side of herself I'd never seen: a petty cruelty. She eventually lost her job and continued her spree, using my money to shop and dine out. Whenever she saw me, her words turned meaner. Holly, still hanging on. Where's that inheritance? When's it finally going to be mine? She'd say these things, all while depleting my account for her extravagant lifestyle. To say I wasn't upset by Mary's hurtful words and behavior would be a lie, but my worry for her overshadowed my anger. Every night, she drank herself into oblivion at an exclusive bar, unable to walk straight afterward. She frequented fancy steak houses and high-end French restaurants, visiting them again and again. Mary has always loved eating, but recently, she's clearly been eating more than usual. She seems so energetic, you'd never guess she's been diagnosed with terminal kidney cancer. Still, it's undeniable that Mary's unhealthy habits are taking a toll on her body. One day, as usual, Mary meets me and mocks me yet again. Holly, no matter how much you glare at me, I'm still free to spend my money however I like. I'm just an old woman with 6 months left, so there's no point in saving up. Actually, it's you with 6 months left to live. Reacting to Mary's insults, I couldn't help but blurt out the truth. What? Wait, what do you mean? Mary just stands there, utterly bewildered. Well, the doctor said the one with terminal kidney cancer and only 6 months to live is actually you, Mary. When I calmly tell her the truth, Mary turns pale. Recently, maybe because I've been drinking too much, my back and waist have been aching, and my feet have been swelling. But me, kidney cancer, and only 6 months left. Apparently, Mary did have some awareness of her symptoms. The doctor told you 6 months 3 months ago, so, strictly speaking, that leaves 3 months. If you noticed symptoms, you should have been taking better care of yourself. As I say this, Mary starts to cry and clings to me. I'm sorry, I thought it was you, Holly, and I've been so awful to you. I'll apologize for everything I've done. Please, help me. Even if Mary apologizes, that doesn't change her condition. While I'm still wondering how to respond, Nolan's voice cuts in. Apologizing now is too late. How many times did I tell you not to speak badly to Mom or spend her money recklessly? Nolan, glaring at Mary, holds a divorce application in his hand. You've got to be kidding. Divorce? I only have 3 months left. Mary crumples to the floor as Nolan sighs. Yes. If not now, in a few months, parting will happen anyway. But if you keep hurting Mom, I'll proceed with the divorce without hesitation. Nolan declares the divorce in a cold, straightforward tone, prompting Mary to scream, half mad with desperation. No, I don't want a divorce. Please, stay with me until the end. Fine. Then return all the money you used without permission back to Mom, and stop saying cruel things to her. If you can agree to that, there will be no divorce. Nolan was well aware of how Mary had been mocking me and using my money for her own pleasures. Despite everything, he had been warning Mary, trying to keep her in line. It seemed like Nolan no longer had any affection for Mary, who had repeatedly hurt me with her cruel words and actions. The reason he decided against divorce seemed more out of pity for Mary, knowing her time was limited. "I'm sorry for spending the money without asking. I'd like to repay it, but I'm unemployed now, and I don't have the funds." Mary hung her head as she spoke, and her parents ended up paying back every penny she had spent. After that, Mary's condition gradually worsened, and within 3 months, she was bedridden. She suffered intensely from a lack of appetite, nausea, and stomach pain. Even in such a state, Mary apologized to me countless times. "I'm so ashamed. I caused trouble for Holly and Nolan by acting out of my own misunderstandings." Those were Mary's final words before she passed away, concluding her 42-year-long life. After Mary's death, while sorting through her belongings, I found several years' worth of health reports. They mentioned re-examination, but it seemed Mary hadn't taken them seriously. If Mary had faced her own health with the same seriousness, she might have lived a happier life without such misunderstandings. Reflecting on this, I felt the importance of confronting not just relationships but also illness with honesty and care in life. When my own time comes, I hope to be someone whom those around me can appreciate and feel grateful for. Though my time with Mary was short, I feel that I learned something significant from her.
You just stay at home all day, right? Tired from just cleaning? Why don't you try switching places with me and see the real struggle? Maybe I should divorce such a useless wife. Not this again. The way my husband treats me, a homemaker, is truly exhausting. My name is Jennifer. I'm a 34-year-old woman. I married David, my coworker, 2 years ago after a workplace romance. Back then, I planned to continue working after marriage. But David said, "I'll work hard outside. You take care of the home." That's my ideal. Men work outside, women protect the home. I naively agreed. I quit my job to become a full-time homemaker, influenced by David's perspective. I used to be easily swayed by others' opinions. Above all, I deeply loved David. So, I followed whatever he said without questioning. I guess I was blinded by love. If only I had stood my ground and not quit my job. Maybe things wouldn't have turned out this way. That's what I still believe. People think homemakers just laze around at home all day. But in reality, it's not like that. Cleaning, laundry, neighborhood meetings, they all consume more time than one might think. Doing all these tasks daily, by myself, is honestly tough. Employees get weekends off, but homemakers don't. So, on Sundays, when David's home, I'd ask, "Hey, I'm a bit busy. Could you help clean the bathroom?" But he'd instantly get grumpy. "Seriously? I work every day to provide, and now you want me to work at home too? Who do you think provides the meals?" If I dared to say, "I appreciate your hard work during the week, but we're a team, right? Can't you help out a bit on your days off?" David would snap back, "Stop bossing me around. You think you can survive on your own, just being a homemaker? Want a divorce?" David immediately snapped. "Who do you think you are? Just because you're home all day doesn't mean you can boss me around. Want me to divorce you? Think you, just a housewife, can survive on your own?" Shockingly, he threatened divorce. I was at a loss for words. Maybe I shouldn't have reacted the way I did. From then on, every time I said something, David would end with, "If you don't like it, let's divorce." It felt like he was using that phrase to control me. Even though I used to work, I had retired and become a housewife. The idea of divorce that David kept bringing up was terrifying. If he really divorced me, how would I survive? What about income? Where would I live? For me, a housewife, nothing was scarier than the thought of divorce. What scared me the most was David himself. He used to be so kind. How did he change so much after we got married? Did I make a mistake in judging him? I deeply regretted marrying David. Lately, as soon as David comes home, he'd say,
"Isn't it obvious you should greet me at the door when I, the breadwinner, come home? Who do you think pays for everything here?"
Yes, David earns the money, but I take care of everything at home. We're supposed to be partners, not in a master-servant relationship. It's supposed to be an equal relationship. Yet, David seems to believe he's superior. He looks down on me, thinking he's above. At first, I thought maybe he was venting work frustrations on me, so I kept quiet. But over time, David began to act like he was always right, and every day was like this. After his lecture, David carelessly throws his suit all over the place and changes into his casual clothes. I pick them up and toss them into the washing machine. This is a daily routine. Even after eating the dinner I prepared, he complains,
"Is this all you can cook? I work hard for you, and this is the meal I come home to? Where's your gratitude?"
I've grown tired of dealing with David's constant complaints. Despite David not earning a high salary, I manage our finances, saving for our future children, leaving little room for extra expenses. Still, I always try to prepare healthy meals, using nutritious ingredients and cutting down on salt. Yet, he still finds reasons to complain. I felt like everything I did was being negated, and my self-confidence dwindled day by day. On top of that, he demands $500 a month for his personal expenses. If I gave him that much, our finances would be in the red. At first, I used some of my savings to cover the expenses, but that wasn't sustainable. So, I tapped into my connections and started a remote job that I could do from home. Of course, I didn't tell David. You see, a while back, I had mentioned, "Hey, things are a bit tight with our finances. I was thinking of getting a part-time job. Is that okay?" To which he snapped,
"What? Are you saying I don't earn enough? You probably just want extra cash to splurge, right? You should just stick to taking care of the house."
Knowing David, I was sure that if I earned, he'd just take more for his personal expenses. So, I decided to work remotely without telling David. The money I earned went towards our living expenses and savings for the future. A former colleague introduced me to this remote job. I would log into the company system and handle administrative tasks, mainly settling travel expenses claimed by employees. Having experience from my previous job, the work wasn't challenging. More than that, being home all day, this remote job gave me a sense of purpose. It felt rewarding. Then, one day, after juggling remote work and household chores, I was exhausted. I decided to take a short break and lay down on the sofa. That was a mistake. I unintentionally fell asleep and was awakened by David in the evening. It was already night. Of course, dinner wasn't ready, and neither was the bathroom. David, seeing this, sighed and said,
"What were you doing all day? Lounging around, neglecting the house? I come home, and you're just napping on the sofa. Seriously, homemakers are just leeches."
Usually, I wouldn't react to David's words, but that day, I was tired. So, I snapped back.
"What's your problem? I just happened to fall asleep today. Stop making it sound like I do nothing all day."
David, not expecting a retort, turned red with anger.
"You're defying me? I'm the head of this household. How dare you speak to me in that tone? If you're going to be defiant, leave this house." "Well, maybe I will. I've been wanting to take some time for myself anyway." It was a classic case of tit for tat. I quickly packed some essentials and headed to a nearby hotel. The look of shock on David's face as I left was priceless. He probably never imagined I'd actually leave. In the past, I would have just been bewildered if David told me to leave. But now, things were different. After all, I had my remote job as a source of income.
Being confined to the house and only doing household chores, this job became my only connection to the outside world. The feeling of being appreciated and thanked directly for my work. Seeing my efforts being rewarded with a paycheck. Having never received gratitude from David for all the housework, this job had become a significant part of my life. Thanks to my remote job, I gained confidence and strength. Maybe some time apart would be good for both of us. With that thought, I lived in the hotel for about a week. During that time, I continued my remote work from the hotel and even uncovered some fraudulent activities by an employee. Then, one day, my phone rang. It was David. I was thinking it might be time for me to return home, so I hoped this call would be the perfect opportunity. When I answered, David said,
Hey, isn't it about time you came back? You've had some time to reflect, right?
"Who does he think needs to reflect here?" Even as I was at a loss for words, David continued,
You must be missing me, right? Life must be tough without me. If you apologize, I'll let you come back home.
Such arrogance from him. Who does he think he is? So, I decided to play it humble and said, I'm really sorry. It was my fault. I miss you every day. Please, let me come back home. To my surprise, he responded with such relief.
I knew it. You can't handle life without me. Fine, come back home.
He couldn't even see through my act. I was taken aback, but decided to return home with an innocent face. When I got back, the house was a complete mess. Clothes were scattered all over the floor, with no place to step. Trash overflowed from the bin, giving off a foul smell. Dirty dishes piled up in the sink. In just a week, he managed to turn the place upside down. I was almost impressed. I thought maybe he'd have cooled off in my absence. Maybe he'd have taken care of the house. All my maybes were shattered. He probably called me back because he couldn't handle the mess anymore. Not because he missed me or felt sorry. Realizing this, I was disappointed in David. I couldn't believe it had come to this. I was once again disappointed by David's carelessness. But in a way, I was grateful. Because it gave me the push I needed to do what I had planned for David without any hesitation. For about a month, I acted as if nothing was wrong at home. I cleaned up the mess David made and followed his every command, even when he complained. Then the day of reckoning came. I executed the plan I had prepared and waited for David to come home. I didn't prepare dinner or even the bathroom. When David came home, he was angry that I hadn't greeted him at the door or prepared dinner. I simply apologized. I'm sorry, I was so busy today and couldn't get to it. Feeling empowered by my submissive attitude, David lashed out even more than usual. And then he said those words.
You're just a parasite, you know? You can't earn money and can't even manage the house properly. I wonder what would happen to a woman like you if we divorced. Maybe I should just file for divorce, huh?
I had been waiting for him to say that. The word divorce that David flaunted like a badge of honor. With a smile, I replied,
You don't need to file. I've already prepared the divorce papers.
David looked confused. So, I showed him the actual divorce papers. Already signed by me.
All you need to do is sign.
David started to panic. Of course. He never expected me to agree to a divorce.
What? No, you'd be the one in trouble if we divorced, right? Don't worry. I'll be just fine. Haven't you noticed? Look around the house. Don't you see?
David looked around frantically.
Where's the TV? The fridge is gone too. What's going on? Oh, did you forget? I brought the TV and fridge when we moved in. So, it's only natural that I take them with me when we divorce. I had everything I bought removed by professionals. Wait, you can't divorce me. How will you survive without my income? See,
I sighed.
Don't you get it? The person handling expense claims at your company? That's me. We never met face to face, only communicated through chat or email, so you never realized.
Yes, I was working remotely for my former workplace, which is David's company. The old acquaintance I mentioned was a colleague from that company. I had been hired part-time on the condition of remote work. I used my maiden name as my family name and kept my first name. At first, I thought David might find out, but that was needless worry. For me, David had long forgotten my maiden name.
I'll tell you one last thing. Your expense claims were clearly off compared to others. So, I looked into it. I've already reported the results to our boss.
The employee misconduct I discovered while at the hotel was none other than David. While handling David's expense reports, I found several suspicious claims. Claims for travel expenses for supposed business trips and hotel stays. But as his wife, I knew David was home on those days. David was trying to embezzle money by claiming fake business trips. He probably thought he'd gotten away with it. But as his wife, it was clear to me he hadn't actually gone on those trips. So, I cross-referenced his past claims with his actions on those days and investigated all his fraudulent claims. At first, I wondered if I could somehow brush it under the rug. But after a week in the hotel and hearing David's words over the phone, and seeing the state of our home, I made up my mind. I'd be the one to end things with this man. I've already reported it to our boss, and I've asked for appropriate action to be taken. Tomorrow, when David goes to work, he'll be called into the boss's office and questioned severely. He was misusing company money, after all. It's only right.
Thank you for everything. I'll be happy on my own. Goodbye.
My belongings have already been shipped to my new place. All that's left is for me to leave this house. Leaving a stunned David behind, I walked out of the house with a spring in my step. Later on, David was dismissed from the company. Being dismissed makes it hard to find another job, and it seems David is still unemployed and attending a job support center. Of course, the house is reportedly a mess. David was reluctant to sign the divorce papers and kept asking me to come back, but I had no intention of doing so. I left all the procedures to my lawyer and finalized the divorce. As for me, I switched from remote work to full-time and fully returned to work. I'll be single for a while, but I plan to look for a new relationship soon. Of course, my criteria for a partner is someone who's willing to share both household chores and child rearing.